We're obsessed with nutrients. We're just obsessed with it. Creatine, whey protein, collagen, colostrum, omega-3s, multivitamins, sugar, carbs, fats, MCT. These are all the nutrients. Nobody talks about the food. We're not meant to consume nutrients. We're meant to consume food. Hey guys, welcome back to another Rest, Eat, Move podcast. It's Matt and Chris in the studio. Hey, if you follow us each week, apologize. We missed our last week's podcast. I was traveling and then we was going to record and actually didn't feel very well. So we missed this week, but we're back. And I think we're pretty excited. And we actually had a little more time to do some research on this podcast.
Last one you plugged in an old one on testosterone.
Yeah.
I was listening. It was good stuff.
Yeah, but we missed and we're back and we're ready for this, and we've been trying to prepare for this presentation in a podcast form because this is called nutrient deficient, yet we're deficient in food. And so this will make sense as we go today, but Kristen, my twin sister, always likes to say in her presentations that remember, we're not meant to eat nutrients, we're meant to eat food. And what that means is we get so fixated on nutrients, the amount of protein, carbs, sugars, fats, the amount of different nutrients like vitamin D and vitamin A and creatine or collagen or colostrum. And so we're going to dive into this today because this always is the number one conversation that we have is, what do you think of creatine? What do you think of this supplement? When you look at some of these supplements, they are selling and producing millions and millions of units. And then we're going to talk about GLP-1 and peptides and different things that are going on in the industry. But Dad, this is one of your favorite topics. Your first book was all around dieting. You got away from kind of calling it dieting, and now you're back 40 years and you're trying to get people to get off of this.
Well, I think you were fired up. You just got back from a trade show and you heard a couple of presenters and they were talking about certain things like HMB and creatine, and you kind of said, hey, let's kind of reopen this thing, peptides, the list goes on. So, yeah, it's interesting. I mean, there's a lot of science that's been out, but if you really dive into the weeds, let's just talk about diabetes for a second. So when you look at a GLP-1 and it's going crazy, would you say 50 million people are now taking?
12% of the U.S. is using GLP-1.
12 to 15%. Mm-hmm. And then you get the other question I threw out there's who's paying for that?
Yeah, a lot of people are paying for it via insurance, so they don't see it necessarily.
Yeah, so how long is that train going to last? It can't last long, but...
Well, they're predicting by 2029, GLP-1 industry will be a $100 billion industry. That's so much larger than any other medication.
So... we've done this. So when you think about type 2 diabetes, type 2 diabetes wasn't really around in the 70s. And then all of a sudden, slowly today, it's gone off the tracks. So we talked about this. Close to 4,000 people had type 2 diabetes in 1970. And today that number's trending to 1 in 7, 1 in 8. So it's not a genetic thing, it's a lifestyle. But if you go back in time as what is type 2 diabetes, it's basically the cell is not healthy, so when you eat nutrients, your body will produce insulin, and insulin's job is to open up the cell. Type 1 diabetes, you don't produce insulin. Type 2, you do, but the insulin is not strong enough to open up the cell. It's like a rusty lock, and that's really this whole conversation. So
yeah, and it involves hormones, and it involves the cell, and
everything.
And they're now saying with type 1 diabetes, more people are finding out late and how it's a autoimmune disease, and I think there's going to be a lot of new changes that we're having, and then you got type 3 diabetes. But
if you just go back in time and say, what is type 2 diabetes? It's basically the cell. It's not a disease of carbohydrates. It's a disease of the cell. It's too stiff and rigid, and so insulin tries to open up the cell. It's too stiff. It's like a rusty lock. And insulin's a hunger hormone.
It resists insulin.
Yeah, so insulin's a hunger hormone. And insulin's also anabolic. It builds the body.
It really has nothing to do with how much sugar you consume. It has everything to do with how the cell is either broken or thriving.
Yeah, and so again, we'll dive into this, but I just keep going back to our community, our world. But step back and really let's go out to the symptom. We're going after the symptom. We're not going after the source. What is it? I don't think most people, when I ask them about taking certain medications like a GLP-1, they have no clue. They just know it's going to help them lose weight, but they don't really understand the downstream effect is what's going to happen to them because of what they're doing right now and really trying to not tackle the problem, which is insulin resistance.
Yeah, so I just got back from this conference. It's the largest ingredient conference in the world, and I go to it as probably the biggest outlier in the whole show. So everyone is health conscious at this show. Everyone is trying to do good. There's people that are trying to profit. That's any industry. But everyone's there trying to do good, but I'm there asking this question, and it's a simple question. And you've heard me ask it before, and I don't mean to be rude about it, but let's just say the big star at the show this year was creatine, adaptogens, postbiotics, AKK. And my question to every single manufacturer, every single company that was there is, how is it made?
Yeah, what is it?
Where is it sourced?
Yeah, tell me what it is.
Is it made by man, or is it naturally occurring in the environment? And what you find is ingredients. A lot of them derive from food, but many are becoming synthetically made by man. And so when you think about GLP-1, a glucagon-like peptide 1, that's made synthetically. Yet we do have this hormone in our body, glucagon-like peptide 1, that's naturally occurring. The problem is there's nothing in the natural state that is as effective for what they're talking about as effective.
Back to the dose.
Well, 12% of our society is metabolically unhealthy. 12% of our society is metabolically healthy.
12%.
Yeah, so 88% of our society is going to be able to take a drug like GLP-1. Now, here's something interesting. 12 to 15% are using these GLP-1s right now. But that could go to 88% technically. It won't go to that. That's a crazy amount of them. But only with 12% of our country, which is a lot of people, that has decreased groceries by $6.5 billion. And when you think about this and you say, what does that matter? Isn't that a good thing? Weren't we eating too much? And you can kind of make anything positive. What that means is we're eating less food. And we have been eating less food. And now you go to these ingredient conferences with all these different ingredients that become supplements. That's where the AG1s of the world are going there to shop for ingredients. They're going there to figure out what's the new thing, what's the new buzz, what's the adaptogen, AKK, which is a postbiotic. I mean, you've been doing this, you'll be 68 this month.
Couple weeks.
You've never heard of postbiotic, and now this will be the new rage. And all that is a probiotic that they kill with pasteurization, that they can have a longer shelf life and have some of those nutrients or botanicals, as they call them. So that's what's going on in the world. And to be honest with you, it's really scary because as we move further and further from the source, two things happen. Number one is we get away from how the body was intended to consume nutrients through food. Number one. And number two, you start to pay more money and get less value long term. Now, I can concentrate something. You may say, well, that's more valuable. In the long run, if you're going to live 90 years old, most people are not going to be able to consume GLP-1 for more than a couple years. And we're seeing that. People take it, they have to get off of it from the symptoms. Then they go back on it, and it's this constant roller coaster.
But I think if you dive into it, like I was looking at in my book.
You're going to go back to the basics, which is important.
I mean, you go look. I look at page 125. For those of you who do not have the Rust Eat Move book, it's page 125. It's a beautiful green.
Yeah, I made it.
You made it, right? Mm-hmm. It's beautiful, and it has a prebiotic, a probiotic, a symbiotic, and it tells you. But there's no. These are just,
we're late to the game. We don't have the postbiotic.
There's no postbiotic, but there's nothing in this list besides a food, and so you just keep going back and say, okay. If you really start without the big stuff, if you really go back to Nutrition 101 it really gets back to what nutrients are we missing. And that's what you're seeing at these shows. Am I taking a peptide? Am I
and
taking
just to give
creatine?
people an idea, really the opportunity is always what's happening and how do we supplement for it? And it's the wrong mindset. The question should be, how do we get people to not have to supplement?
Well, that's the first thing I wrote down today is the mindset around food. You got to think differently. I'm going to get nutrients from a rainbow versus an isolate. And if we were talking about amino acids, and again, I'm going to jump around here for a second, but if you think about in the human body, if you looked at protein, most people, I was listening to these young college kids the other day at the Mac working out, and they're talking about creatine, and I just had to bite my tongue. You need to get a clean source of creatine. We'll get down the path. But I wanted to
if
say,
you had said something, said, "Hey, Grandpa."
yeah, they would have said, "Hey, Grandpa, shut up."
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm like, okay, so what is? If you go back in time, if you looked at a protein, proteins are called amino acids. Just go back to the basics. Everybody should know this. A protein is an amino acid. So then you got to ask, well, how many amino acids are there? And there's 22. Some say 21, some say 22, but 22. And out of those 22, what are called essential amino acids, there's 9. And those come from animal sources. So if I eat
and
meat,
essential technically means that you can't produce it. You have to consume it.
you have to consume it. So it has all those essential amino acids, and then you have non-essential, which is basically...
That gets you the 22.
Yeah. And so you can combine plant with like nuts and seeds in this food combining. You can get those. So now you say, well, how many, if you looked at a peptide, what is a peptide? A peptide is a form of amino acid. How many peptides are on the market today?
A lot. And
There's more than 22.
And there's mostly injectable.
Yeah, so you got to ask these questions. So do I need creatine? Do I need a peptide? Do I need this, because I have this deficiency? Goes back to question number 1, what nutrients are we missing? And if you can really go back to that, and it really gets back to the 3 macros, carbohydrates, fats, and proteins. And that's it. There's nothing else. Vitamins and minerals, water. But that's the stuff that drives us crazy sometimes is like, let's go back to the basics. I mean, you said this at the very beginning, a GLP-1, basically the 3 areas.
Yeah, there's going to be 3 symptoms always.
3 symptoms of taking
always.
A GLP-1.
Nutrient depletion, and you may not feel that.
You won't even know that.
Yeah, but that is going to happen. Number 2.
So let's go back there for a sec. So if I'm nutrient deficient,
Depleted.
I'm depleted.
Because one of the ways that GLP-1 works is it's going to suppress your appetite by slowing the gastric emptying. So you're not hungry, you're not going to eat as much food. And if you don't eat as much food, you don't absorb as much food.
And if you don't really know what to do, you're going to, now I'm missing nutrients.
Yeah, so number 1, nutrient depletion, nutrient deficient.
Yep, so that's the first thing I say.
That doesn't show up.
Nutrition 101 is what am I missing?
Right.
So we're missing. So that's the first thing. The second thing you said was, what was number 2?
Gut issues.
So now I have gut issues.
Yeah,
Everybody's talking about microbiome and gut
health. At a severe level, maybe you have, and this is they put it right on the disclaimer, is gut paralyzation. So you're going to paralyze the gut. So it's
paralysis
the muscles,
of the gut.
Paralysis. It's not working as hard.
Correct.
The gut biotics start to change. The microbiome starts to change.
And then you come at me and say, hey, what about AKK?
But hold on, we'll get to AKK. And then there's a third one. There's a third one, and this is a big one, is muscle loss.
Muscle wasting.
Muscle wasting. If you lose 25 pounds, let's just say you lose 100 pounds. Let's go extreme. 40% of that weight's coming from muscle. So maybe you lost 10 pounds. 4 pounds of that 10 is muscle. 40%. Everyone needs to know that, because when you lose muscle, which is the longevity organ in the body, you're going to have long-term issues. And the muscle cells contain the mitochondria. And back to what I said, metabolic healthiness, 12%. We're already not metabolically healthy. You start losing mitochondria and muscle cells.
And that's the benefit of strength training. You help to stimulate the mitochondria.
Yeah, so...
And increase the mitochondria.
Yeah, so what you're going to see, again, we're not trying to do doom today. It's rainy and dreary outside, but I'm going to shine a light on this. But there's 3 big symptoms, and there's more symptoms. We talked about brain, and we talked about mental health. Let's not even That's long term or longer term.
Yeah, that's
but
the
these are the
problem.
3 short term symptoms. And at this conference, just to let everyone know how supplement industry works, is they're licking their lips because they're now taking something that 12% of the country that's going to probably move
50
closer,
million people.
that's going to move closer to 25, 30% of the country, and they're going to say, let's make supplements for their symptoms.
Correct.
Let's create opportunities for the pain people have. Now, the reason, and this is, we're going to back up for a second, why we do what we do is we're trying to paint a better picture for most people. What's the lifestyle that they can create to feel their best? Why is GLP-1 so powerful? Is because it paints a picture for people of a better life. And it's not just about the weight. It's about I can feel better. I can play with my grandkids. I can live longer. I'm more confident. I'm happier. And so we understand the emotional part of that. And that's why it's such a blockbuster. There's been nothing ever in the history of medicine that is as much of a blockbuster as this because it paints a picture for people. The problem is we're not Frankenstein. We're not machines. We can't just hack our way. There's going to be a trade-off, And for some people, this can be life-changing, life-altering in a positive way. I've said this before. But for majority of people that are going down this path, it's going to reduce life expectancy because of these 3 symptoms.
And like you said, for a certain population, it could be very beneficial.
Yeah.
But for the average person, when you watch the nightly news, it's going to be somebody who wants to lose 20 or 30 pounds, and here they go, and they're so excited about it. But as time goes on, the big one in my eyes is you're going to lose muscle. And then you're going to have problems with your gut health. And then if your gut health is out of balance, you're going to have problems with sleeping and your neurotransmitters and your mood and all the mental health stuff you just touched on real quickly. Go back and talk about this AKK for a second. And that's just one of these postbiotics.
Yeah, and so, again, companies are going to be very smart, and you see this already. So I'm not necessarily picking on these, but let's just say AG1. There's a reason that they called it AG1. Well, then they can come up with AG2, 3, 4, and they actually just came out with AG2 or something like that for sleep. And so the idea there is if they called it Acromansia or AKK, they roll their eyes. Well, AKK is a postbiotic, so you're going to see this put into everything. Because the idea is many people are having gut issues, a lot of it because of the GLP-1, but not even the GLP-1, people have gut issues. And so the AKK is a postbiotic that's going to help with that gut microbiome to feed these probiotics to start to create more of that garden. And by itself, that's not the issue. The issue is the mindset. Why do we all of a sudden need AKK? Why all of a sudden do we need all these pre and probiotics in a supplement form? Why all of a sudden do I need a peptide to fall asleep? Why do I need a peptide to lose weight? Why do I need a peptide to work out?
Really back to a peptide, it's
amino
acid, which is a protein.
Yeah. And everything that we're talking about today is going to come down to 2 things. Is it helping and communicating to our hormones? And is it a raw material to help us do what we're trying to communicate? And a lot of that scientifically makes a lot of sense to say, well, why don't I just isolate it and give you exactly what you want?
What's interesting, when I work with people, we talk about the nervous system and getting that balanced and the stress and all that stuff. But then I say, okay, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to work on your water intake. Make this so simple. And then the third piece is I'm going to the pre-pro and symbiotic foods. I need to get you start consuming some of these in your diet. So, for example, we're going to put a lemon in your water. I'm going to have you eat an apple. We're going to put some cacao nibs in your oatmeal. We're going to get you start doing spirulina chlorella or wheatgrass or whatever it is. So we're covering all this ground. And now we got this thing called AKK, which,
So I'm at this. Just to give you guys a landscape, and all the big players of the supplements that we're going to talk about here, they have buyers there that are buying these ingredients to formulate these products. Nobody is really selling the raw material in a retail form. So cacao nibs, one of our favorite superfoods. In our books, we talk that it's kind of like our 5th, 6th superfood after the big 4. Well, in cacao, there's a lot of different phytonutrients and different elements, but magnesium. So if you're at this ingredient conference, you will not find cacao nibs. What you'll find is synthetic magnesium. And so then we say, well, magnesium's good. Okay, let's make it synthetically so that we can put it in things. Doesn't have a flavor, can put it in different formulations. And so I walk around these trade shows and I ask a question, but I'm looking for cacao. Well, cacao doesn't have enough profitability.
Yeah,
there's not enough.
It's coming from the source.
Yeah, and so let me go one last thing, and this is by no means, I'm not an expert on GLP-1 peptides or peptides. It's getting, there's actually a wild west of peptide use, and it goes on.
Oh, gosh, there's a new one every day.
But they call this compensation for GLP-1, and so they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. They have 9 different categories of symptoms that they're going to compensate. And so we love ginger, but ginger or ginger extracts for being nauseous. So one of the side effects of GLP-1.
You have ginger ale as a kid when you had an upset stomach.
All right, so then there's going to be fiber, so fiber supplements for constipation, laxative herbs for constipation, collagen for the saggy skin. So they're preying on the saggy skin now that you just need to take more collagen. Well, what happens is you lose muscle and you lose collagen in this process. That's where the saggy skin comes in. Protein, because the muscle. So let's just add protein powder because you're going to lose muscle. HMB for muscle, creatine for muscle, vitamin D for bones, and then vitamin K2. And so when you think about all these categories of opportunities, these are going to be all the things that you're hearing about now. Because what we think we can do is we think we can say, this is what the body's trying to do. And what if I just make it synthetically? Won't that do the same thing? And the answer is no. And if it does help you in a way, there's going to be some symptom that happens. And the Drug Monger's book and we've understood in pharmacological avenues, when you take a medication, there is a effect.
Yeah, it's downstream. It always will be downstream.
So that's where we're at right now with all of these different things that are happening.
Because we've talked about this for food is love, food is social, but food is also information and medicine to the body. And this is so powerful because it's out there everywhere.
And this week, I think actually it was last week, an article came out about the amount of lead in protein powders. So just understand that as we process or isolate or synthetically make these things, it's not as much food. And that's what we're talking about today is how do we get back? I'd love for people, if 88% of our society is metabolically unhealthy, I'd like to see our spend on food and grocery go up. Now, I'm not talking about processed food and grocery.
No, we're talking about the good stuff.
I'm talking about whole foods. Mm-hmm. So that's to me, we're going in the wrong direction in both ways.
Even you're buying whole foods, generally the price will go down in the foods you consume too. So again, it's a vicious cycle. One of the things I just want to touch base real quickly. But when you think about gut health, it gets back to the bowls. Most people, you may have heard of this, may not, but that's your bowel, 5 superhighways of elimination. So the first one is your bowel. The next one is your urine. Then you have your lungs, your lymphatic system, and your skin. So when people are taking some of these things, if you just go back in time and I sit down and I talk to them, walk me through the bowls. They've never heard it before. And then you start seeing compromises. So if the bowls are compromised, the way the body eliminates changes, and now I start having toxicity. Well, so I might lose weight, but then I start having all these other issues over on the side that don't happen overnight, but they will happen.
Remember when we were talking about mastication and chewing?
Yeah.
And people were pretty interested in that, but let's go back. So the bowls are super important. That's kind of the elimination. But how about the absorption? And that's where gut health, it gets so sideways, in my opinion, is we focus on the stomach and the intestines, but your digestive tract begins in the mouth.
In the mouth.
And so when you're at these shows, everything is a powder into a drink or a thing that you mix in water. And
right.
What happens is we start to consume most of the pro and prebiotics and most of the the protein creatines are things that can be absorbed or stirred in water. So you drink it and you bypass. And this is very interesting. You bypass the first part of digestion. or your gut.
What's-
We think about gut in the stomach. The gut begins right there in the mouth.
Well, again, you think about your dog Boji, my dog Floyd. We like farmer's dog. So can you imagine giving Boji some kind of protein powder as a beverage and say, hey, Boj, you're done?
Boji does swallow whole loaves of bread and different things.
Would. And
You wouldn't do it.
Farmer's dog thing is it's real food. So it comes frozen, and then you let it thaw, and it's real food. And you basically, because I just laugh sometimes because we would never think about feeding that to, an infant or our dogs, but we're going to give a peptide here and creatine here, and HMB
and
here.
We've talked about it. We're drinking too much food.
Yeah.
So
we're not chewing.
That'd be a good place to start. If a lot of your supplementation comes in powders and sometimes that's the only vehicle, but my point is
you can make an amazing smoothie without putting any protein powder in it. I never use protein. I haven't used protein powder in 20 some years. So you can always put really healthy nutrients in there if you're on the run and you need something different, but you don't have to just guzzle it down. You could put it in your mouth for a minute and get that absorption.
There's I've seen a lot of good influencers and podcasters that are starting to change their stance on if you're low on collagen or if your skin seems saggy or wrinkly and that's something that you're trying to improve, just taking collagen doesn't necessarily take it right to that skin of your forehead.
Right. It's not Botox.
Yeah, and that's what we have to get out of the idea that the body actually has this orchestra, this harmony, and you don't just take these things and they go right to it.
So you were asking, you were talking about this earlier, and again, we could go through, but we discussed peptides. Peptides are amino acids. Again, there's a lot of them out there now. But I like what you said.
And just so you know, processed protein is the cheapest supplement to make, and it's the easiest to hide.
And everybody talks about it.
Just so everyone knows, whey protein was discovered because it was the stuff they were throwing away. Mm-hmm. So they were making cheese. They had all this whey, and they said, well, what can we do with it? And so then someone came and said, well, we can make it into protein powder. That's how it was made. So
give the audience a little bit more description. What is creatine?
Yeah, so creatine, and I might botch these names, but creatine is naturally made in the body. That's number one that you need to know. And you consume food with creatine. So plant or animal-based foods tend to have creatine.
In a typical, let's just say tonight I'm going to have bison burgers.
Yeah, bison might have 1.5 to 2 milligrams of the amount that you might be consuming.
Or you have chicken.
Salmon or chicken.
Yeah, so you get creatines through basically animal or fish sources.
Yeah, and I think we produce about 1 milligram a day naturally in our kidneys. Okay, so then they say, but
you need more.
And creatine's really good, and that's a whole different conversation. But they take two ingredients, and these would be a vendor at this show selling sodium sarcosinate, I think cosinite, which is a salt, but it's not salty. It's actually sweet. And then they combine it with cyanamide, which is in toothpaste. And they combine these two things, they heat it up, and they pressurize it, and it creates this byproduct called creatine monohydrate. And they have to vacuum dry it, they have to test it, they have to centrifuge.
But most creatine is that.
There's different, like monohydrate is considered the holy grail. Mm-hmm. There's different versions of that. So when they say
clean creatine, that's
clean,
kind of
most tested, blah, 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 blah.
But that's really the raw ingredients.
What I would make everyone's spewing the same thing. It's the most tested, safest, longest, oldest, and it sounds so good. The problem that people forget is it's super cheap to make. And we do need creatine. And it's a cell volumizer. And it does contribute to energy and ATP and the mitochondria. But if that's how the body was really designed to consume and absorb nutrients, then why don't we take protein, carbs, fats, creatine, every vitamin and mineral, every amino acid, just put it in one pill.
Well, that's the Jetsons. You have a little container and it has that's your sandwich. It's a little tiny pill.
Yeah.
This is your Salisbury steak over here. Mm-hmm. It's that.
So we'll take a pill and then we'll take a pill for controlling our appetite.
Yeah, boy, that tastes good. That Salisbury
Yeah,
steak in a
but
pill.
what we forget is that our gut was beautifully created, this garden, this microbiome, which we're more bacteria than we are cells. We're more bacteria. It begins in the mouth, and it's very sophisticated, and it's your enteric nervous system.
Nervous system.
So, okay, I'm going to take a bunch of creatine, and I'm going to try to peptide myself to eliminate hunger. How am I going to produce serotonin?
Yeah, so where's serotonin made?
Well, it's made by carbohydrates.
And it's made where?
In the gut.
How much in the gut?
60, I don't know, these stats.
Close to 90%.
Yeah, 60, 80, 90%.
So what does serotonin do?
It's the neurotransmitter for being happy.
Oh.
Mood.
I think we need more serotonin. And also serotonin is a raw material that makes what?
Melatonin.
And melatonin helps us sleep. You guys can see how this starts to cascade, that if I'm not allowing the body to consume foods and break them down in the gut naturally, I'm going to have some downstream problems.
Nobody in their right mind thinks that processed sugar is healthy for you. But yet, a lot of people that are, I think, bright, smart, curious, would say an apple is good for you. They're not identical, the same story, but to take creatine from food, and we know that's really good for us, it's required, it helps us, and to say I'm going to process two man-made things synthetically, to me that's table sugar.
Well, it made me think about, remember Jamie Oliver? I used to love watching some of his stuff.
Yeah.
And he had chicken McNuggets, and he was showing,
There's no chicken in
it. He was just talking about it. So he took all these nasty ingredients that were in the chicken McNuggets, and he showed it to
show you what you.
He showed it, and the kids were just grossed out. They're not going to eat it. But then he put a little oil in there, and he fried it up, and it looked like and they were all just. It's the same exact nutrient. They just made it taste better.
Do me a favor.
Better.
If you're on the fence, Google your top creatine that you're consuming. There's hundreds, and go to their website and see if you can find a video of them making it. And most of them do, because they're touting how clean the facility.
Yeah.
The facility will look sterile, white, bags of salt, which is the sodium sarcosinide, and the cyanamide, which is in toothpaste. They're both white. They mix them together. And what they're trying to do with that is find it in a way that they can put it in water and stir it so easily.
You can't even pronounce it. It can't be good for you, right?
Yeah, struggling with the pronunciation.
No, but I'm just saying that's how simple it needs to be. If you can't read it, you shouldn't eat it.
Yeah, and whey protein was created as the waste, and that's good. Let's use our waste in different ways. But now you're saying, well, okay, let's create this story that everyone's deficient or missing protein. 88% of our society is metabolically unhealthy. I would say close to 88% are not moving their body like they should. There's so many people that think that if I just take a whey protein or a creatine, that's going to make my health better.
Yeah, and if you go back to carbohydrates, you don't have to make this that hard. You got fruits and vegetables and ancient grains. And we're not talking about the Twizzlers and the Doritos. Yeah. And then we go to the healthy fats. You got your coconut, you got your nuts, your seeds, your fish. Oil. Yeah, you got, macadamia nuts, almonds, walnuts, whatever. And then you go to your polys, which is your omega-3s, which is the cod liver oil and, flax. And then you got your omega-6s, which is going to be pumpkin seeds and Brazil nuts and stuff like that. And then you got your protein, which is coming from animal and plant. If we go back to the basic stuff, you start covering all this stuff. I don't have to take this peptide. No. You don't have to take this. No. Oh, by the way, you're going to have better bowls, better gut biotics, better brain health. Now I get to sleep.
Yeah. And the scariest thing for me is you can do blood tests. And we've talked about this last several weeks, and we're going to continue to talk about it. And you can test different nutrients and all that kind of stuff. You can't test your creatine level, but you can test your glomerular filtration rate and your kidneys and how they're functioning. The mistake that I see is people say, well, I heard that I need more protein. Dr. T is on 60 Minutes saying that people need to take, what did he recommend that most people should take protein?
1.5 grams. It's a lot. It's ridiculous, in my opinion.
And he said in the 60 Minutes, it's not possible to do that with just food.
Right.
So his mindset's already based on some
You're going to pay the guy, $250,000
based
a
on
year.
some article when most people are not deficient in protein.
No.
Now, if I start to eat a high protein diet as a byproduct, usually you're going to suffocate out some processed carbohydrates.
That's what I tell people. If you eat real food, you will not be protein deficient. Because if I'm eating fast food and garbage food and supplements, whatever, but if I eat any type of nuts and seeds, any type of vegetables, any type of ancient grains, throw some animal protein or fish in there, I'm not going to be deficient in protein.
And now, okay, let's just say I want to be a 265-pound, 5% body fat bodybuilder. Well, there is a trade-off to get that big and that lean and hold on to that, and supplementation might be the way and vehicle. But we know many of those people, they pay for it in a different way. And so just remember, like, there's a trade-off. There's a cause and effect.
And here comes TRT. We talk about testosterone replacement therapy. Seems like everybody's doing it now. Well, I got the long term. I even did the testosterone podcast that just came out this past week. It's like, why? I mean, could it fit a role? Yeah, it could fit a role. Just like the GLP ones could fit a role, but that's not where we begin. Are you getting enough rest? Are you working out? Or, what are you doing? But wow, why wouldn't I do that? Well, vessels, heart, connect. I mean, it goes on and on and on. So
mental health. See, I'm at this conference, and what makes us unique, and we're going to continue to stand, is the rest, eat, move. A lot of these folks are food scientists. They've been in the lab. They've studied all the stuff. And, I had a professor in college. I remember he's the smartest professor I had. And not judging a book, but he's 80 pounds overweight, drinking a Diet Coke, telling you about all the literature and the scientific journal, but there's no balance and there's no art. He's so isolated, and so you got to understand that, yeah, we want these smart people doing these very sophisticated testing, but when it comes to food science, and all the money in food science is going to be in ingredients and supplementation or synthetic. Nestle Corporation has this food science division that owns some of the biggest brands for supplements. And a lot of them you would know or don't realize that get bought by them. And what they're trying to do is they're trying to find gaps in the society.
Gaps.
Yep. But they're filling it as cheaply and inexpensively with the best marketing you've ever seen. All we're coming at is I see a lot of people have 15 supplements when they should have maybe one or two. And they need to go back to, what am I actually missing?
Yeah, why am I taking vitamin D3?
Yeah.
Because you can get it in cod liver oil and sunlight.
Yeah, I got this woman's blood work. Her vitamin D3 is 83. It's phenomenal. And yet she's being told she needs to take vitamin D. And again, it's like it just comes out of people's mouth. Just take it. Just take it. Well, most people have no idea. Am I really deficient in creatine? Because if you overconsume creatine, I do think long-term it's going to have some effect and some side effect. Whether you don't notice the dehydration, a lot of people are noticing like gut cramping. Where did that come from?
Well, and again, you're seeing so much kidney stones going out there today, and you're like, what's causing that?
Yeah, you got intermittent fasting, creatine, and supplementation, and caffeine, and the next thing you know, you're not consuming food, you're drinking. You're drinking liquids with synthetic stuff in it.
I was talking to one of my clients the other day, and we were talking about headaches, and people are being told by the medical world that caffeine is really good for your headache, and I'm like, oh, you're probably dehydrated.
Well,
so now
it might cover up the symptom, but what about next?
That's what I'm saying.
Next day,
it's going after the symptom. It's not going after fixing the problem. It's like when you have gout. Here's basically food grade baking soda. It's going to fix the symptom, but it's not going to fix the problem. So again, it just keeps going back and forth. It's just, again, peptides,
But let's break this down. I put this list together. I was thinking about it, and I probably missed some things, but we're obsessed with nutrients. We're just obsessed with it. And for us, we talk about superfoods, and if you really kind of go deep, what we're trying to do with anything, when you look at the target, is talk about what's the most powerful food. And if there's a nutrient in some of those foods, let's just take cod liver oil. It has omega-3 fats, but it also has vitamin D. And it also has pro and pre-resolving mediators, which are anti-inflammatory. But most people don't have access to wild-caught ocean cold water fish. And if you do, and if you can, there's no need to supplement
And if you're consuming it regularly.
Okay, let's say, how do we get as close to that source? Because we need it. 95% of us know, and you can do a blood test that you're deficient in omega-3s. And so it's not just guessing, not just saying, I need more creatine because I heard it's good for muscles. It's omega-3 fats make every cell in the human body. And when people test their omega-3 fats, 95% of us are deficient because we're consuming so much omega-6. So that's how we get to cod liver oil. And then you take spirulina and chlorella. It's an algae, but most people will not be able to tolerate the taste. It's not a common food, but it's like multivitamins on steroids. It's the oldest food in the world. And even that, if I took that and I met with our supplier for spirulina and chlorella, they don't make their money on the spirulina and chlorella tablets. They make their money of extracting the nutrients in the algae and selling it in lotions and potions and different powders.
Right, not from the source.
Yeah, we're like nobody to them because what they want is, how do I take something in it?
Yeah.
How do I take that tomato and make it into tomato
raw ingredient, correct.
But let's break these down. Creatine, whey protein, collagen, colostrum, omega-3s. A lot of people know of omega-3s, but they use the word omega-3s. Chlorophyll droplets in your water, multivitamins, sugar, carbs, fats, MCT. These are all the nutrients. Nobody talks about the food. AG1, is that a food? What does that even mean?
Well,
it's a bunch of nutrients.
Yeah, you don't know what it is.
And ingredients combined together.
Proprietary blend.
I want us to start thinking about food, whether or not you like the word superfood. All that means is a nutrient-dense food. So let's just say I like bread. You like bread. That's a food. Mm-hmm. Made with different ingredients to make the bread. It's not a superfood. It's a food.
Mom made sourdough bread
Yeah.
for this weekend, but yeah, it could be kind of a superfood for your gut.
But when you think about superfoods, these are how we want you to think about, how do I get closer to food? How do I eat more food? How do I chew more food? How do I absorb more nutrients from food? Remember, we're not meant to consume nutrients. We're meant to consume food. That's all we're talking about today. And there's all these arguments that, well, they say that creatine's good for women's brain health and muscle, and it's the longest studied, safest. I'm just telling you, they can do this for everything. AKK's coming out, ashwagandha and the adaptogens. I mean, who heard of ashwagandha? And the ashwagandha company is sponsoring this trade show for millions of dollars because of what? Because we think that this miracle nutrient is going to cure all of our symptoms.
Well, and again, if you just go back and say, let's build a couple habits, are you consuming any type of citrus fruit? Amazing for cancer, gut health, vitamin C.
And vitamin C is precursor for collagen.
And so you looked at Linus Pauling 900 years ago, and he came out with vitamin C for cancer prevention. So that'd be pretty easy. You cut up some orange slices, put a lemon in your water.
Why don't I just take a powder in my water?
That's what I'm saying. So then you can get this, emergency C that you can mix with everything. So everybody in the winter months is throwing emergency C powder in their water. And morality is
electrolyte powders.
Yeah. So people would come to a convention and they'd say to me, "Is this good for me?" And I'm like, "Why don't you just eat a half of a orange or a lemon in your water?" We're kind of keep getting away from that thinking.
Yeah,
and it's the same thing when you get up in the morning. Am I doing my omega-3 fat? Generally, cod liver oil is the first thing I'm going to do in the morning along with my wheatgrass. These are just habits you're building. So now I'm covering all this ground. And that's the challenge. That when are you going to eat these foods? Because you're not. So that's kind of what we're talking about today, which leads us back to that microbiome in the gut, your muscle. How does that actually work?
Yeah, you take a ton of supplements, you stop eating food, you try to, the word that I thought was interesting, you try to compensate. Next thing you know, you're going to have to take a pre and probiotic because you're not consuming pre and probiotics. That's what happened. So when we back up and say, it's not that they just discovered pre and probiotics were essential and oh my gosh, all the research. It's that people stopped eating pre and probiotics.
But you had a word earlier, and I didn't write it down at the very beginning, but you were talking about one thing that I'm losing the spot where it was, but you were talking about, again, a mindset around this nutrient. I'll come to it in a minute, but I don't know. This is why no matter where you are in the world, you're at a trade show, I'm at a health club, we're speaking at a conference. These are the questions we get continuously. Should I take peptides? Should I take creatine? And then if they are doing it, they don't want to hear about, like, I just start asking deeper questions, because this will all start changing downstream. Again, sleep's going to change. They can't relax anymore.
You said it with the amino acids. You can start to food pair, and you can start to have
food
combining
mm-hmm.
the diversity. And so, like, avocados are actually so there's natural GLP-1 foods. Now, nothing in nature is as powerful as the concentrated GLP-1. That's why it's a blockbuster. But avocados are really good to kind of get things going.
That's why people are taking TRT.
Citrus fruit. And so, like, you start to say, oh, my gosh, let's stop hacking this. Let's just literally allow the body to do what it's meant to do. And then you go into, paleo and keto and, okay, let's not put a name to it. Let's just eat food. Listen to your body. Some people need more fermented food. Some people need less fermented food. Some people like it. Some people don't. Some people, can handle a little bit more starchy carbohydrates than others. Some people can handle legumes. And you listen to the body, but give it the diversity. Mm-hmm. A young kid has metabolic flexibility. That's why they can eat anything and they kind of feel pretty good. They don't know what we're talking about. Me and you, you more probably than me, and vice versa, we start eating like shit, we're going to feel like shit.
Yeah,
But there's a lot of people, 88% of society, that's not been doing the basics, mm-hmm. and so they get this pseudo effect. Well, my neighbor told me to do the carnivore diet. For a short period of time, what that carnivore diet does is it cuts out all the crap too.
Right.
And so it's not.
They're very intentional.
The
for a
positive
period of time.
isn't necessarily what you're doing. The positive mm-hmm. is what it suffocates out.
Mm-hmm.
Long term, nobody. Every influencer that touted the carnivore at some point is probably, if they're still touting it, are in their 30s, maybe. But once they get to 50, 60, they're going to change the course, because you need fiber, you need the serotonin, you need the.
And you want to try to create a lifestyle. That's the way I was talking about, that you can repeat and love, versus always being some type of deficiency out there, because you will see results.
Yeah.
Liver King was a great example of,
Until he got,
is he taking anything?
No.
And people would say, yeah, he is. Yeah. So again, back to what you're saying.
I don't remember what word you're trying to use, but again, to sum up today, and I think we've hit the point. Do what makes you feel your best. We're not telling anyone what to necessarily do, but a couple things to remind yourself. If the marketing's too good, it's probably too good to be true. I'm at these conferences. I've asked the founders and the owners all these questions, and everybody looks at me like, why does that matter? Because it does. It matters the source of what you're putting in your body.
Yeah, one thing before you sign off, but one of the questions I always ask, and so if you go online or whatever, but number one, the first thing you want to ask is, what is it? Tell me what it is. Tell me what a peptide is. And number two is, where does it come from? Tell me where it comes from. It's no different than Jamie Oliver saying, where's that chicken McNugget come from? Mm-hmm. When people see it, where it comes from, if you really go back and follow it all the way back to the infancy, you go, I'm putting that in my body? Mm-hmm. So everybody think about that. Number one, what is it?
We understand that from sugar.
Yeah.
We've figured that out. What is it?
And where does it come from? And we say the same thing when we have sugar. If you have sugar cane and it's in the natural source, you're not going to overeat sugar cane, because it's a pain in the butt to break down. You have to have a machete and break it down.
Vitamins and minerals already.
Yeah, it already has 13 vitamins and minerals in it. So, but that's where we get sideways. If you really follow the beginning of it, you're going to have your answer. But the hard part about it, you're not going to get that answer. Nobody's going to tell you where it comes from, what is in it, what it does.
Because as I think we've gotten so far, we want the answer instantly. So if I'm overweight, I want to know why. Well, they've worked hard, and I don't think it's good for our society. And they said, well, it's genetics. So next thing you know, if it's genetics, I need to take something. And they
But we
said,
kind of made that point at the very beginning today. In 1970, 1 in 4,000
well, they're already
people had
moving
type
away from the
diabetes.
genetics thing because the 3 symptoms:
Right.
nutrient depletion,
Right.
gut issues, and muscle loss.
You don't want any of those.
No, and if it's genetics for the obesity, those things probably aren't very good either to begin with. So, yeah, we're in trouble because I love marketing. I think it's fantastic. But when you start marketing food, it's where it gets very slippery. If there's enough profitability to market something, I always am going to be a little leery. If people aren't aware of it, when you started doing your presentation, just so everyone knows, nobody knew what an omega-3 was.
No, the hospital would kind of go after me like,
You can't say
that. What do you mean you can't say
now
that?
everybody does, but the piece is like marketing's okay if it's about education and awareness. But when you start to manipulate things and call it different letters and acronyms and miracle powders, and we're missing the point. Now, if you're using a protein powder to make a smoothie, and that's replacing soda or stimulants or other
Yeah, they're just upgrades.
That's a great progression.
Yeah, great upgrade.
If you're eating better because you're more, great progression. What we get frustrated on is people start spending all this money, doing all these different things, 5, 10, 15 years down the track, they're like, I'm having some symptoms now. My gut is not working the way it is. And then you look and you're saying, well, you're taking
It's interesting.
a gummy and a powder and a...
Yeah, I had a guy I was coaching with online, and he was doing a smoothie, and we got into the bowls. And I realized very quickly his bowls weren't the way they should be. And so I asked him, so tell me, he does a smoothie every day for lunch. So, and he's doing the typical whey protein powder and, putting some stuff in it, whatever. So I said, well, let's just upgrade your smoothie. He goes, well, how would I do that? And I said, well, you're going to have to spend a little time, because before he just takes it and puts it in a shaker and he goes out the door.
Powder and water and
Yeah,
go.
powder and he goes. So I said, it might take you 30 more seconds. You're going to have to buy some nutrients. But we did coconut water. We put Brazil nuts in and pumpkin seeds in his thing. And then we added, frozen fruit and a banana and, all the stuff that we promote, some flax seeds. And about a month later, one of it was our third call. He goes, I got to tell you, my elimination's gotten unbelievably better. I said, because now you're taking this garbage out and all you're doing is upgrading it. You're not changing you're still having a smoothie. You're just upgrading it. And now he's going, and I said, he goes, I'm telling everybody that in the gym and the work, and he goes, they don't believe it. I'm like, you can't change that because they don't know. You have to educate them first before they start making that transition. But I thought that was very interesting. We didn't get rid of a smoothie. We just upgraded a smoothie.
Yeah, and again, if you start to supplement, and I can go down on, melatonin and different things that you hear about, the body stops, you start putting synthetic things. You put TRT in the body stops making testosterone.
Yeah, you put statins in, you don't produce CoQ10.
So that's where we're at today. The body is not meant to consume nutrients. We're meant to consume food. And we have to, number one, change our mindset that if we're looking for nutrients for some reason, number one, we should probably have a reason why. So whether it's the blood test or a symptom, it's not always as simple as we make it. But if you start to give the body the right raw materials, not at the crazy amounts of milligrams and dosage.
And if people don't have the food target, just go to our website. It's a free download, and you can see the food target with real food.
Real food. And that's, just mark my words, we're at 12% GLP-1 use. It's going to go to 25%, $100 billion by 2029. But we're consuming so much creatine and so much protein powder and colostrum, and then they come out and whey protein and plant protein.
And then you got that
lead,
postbiotic.
And then you got postbiotic, AKK, acromansia, all these adaptogens, all these polyphenols, and let's just take a deep breath.
Every time I come see you to do a podcast, you always educate me on the latest and greatest, because I like, seriously?
Yeah, it's getting crazy.
You're showing your dad there's some new thing that on the market. I'm like, I can't keep up with all this stuff.
again, it's pretty, we're pretty dumb. And, I'm trying to make this sometimes explain the science as I research the science, but we've lost the common sense to food. But even a step above that, we've lost the common sense to how the body is meant to work.
Correct.
You can eat even clean that we're talking about it, but if you don't sleep, what do you think is going to happen to your hormones?
Right.
So you may say, well, the TRT is helping me. Well, are you sleeping better? No. Okay, we just put a Band-Aid on for a period of time.
Right.
Or I don't want to exercise, so I'm going to do this, and this.
There's a pill for that,
There's
too.
a pill for that. So leave here today. Let's eat more food. Let's change this narrative that we're down in groceries. Again, I don't know what that stat necessarily means, but we're definitely down in consuming whole foods. And so we need to start eating whole foods. And we can talk about organic, but if you have a choice to eat an apple or not eat an apple, let's not get
and
so
remember,
sideways.
food is also love and social.
Yeah, food is also love and social. Kristen's kids are in town, birthday parties. If I go there and say, is this made with seed oil? We've lost part of the magic act.
And it won't
of
be
food.
made with seed oil too, but
It won't be, but I don't have to ask. And I wouldn't ask.
Right.
So let's start eating food. Let's stop just focusing on nutrients. And I think the nutrients will take care of themselves. We'll see you again next time.